The president is expected to cut sword today, somewhere in the Achim area, for work to start on the first of the 50 new senior high schools that his government has promised to build over the next 4 years. Following that very policy statement in the State of the Nation address, the concern has been whether it is only, perhaps only including the day school students or also the boarding school students. And we have on the line to give us a lot more clarification on the subject the Member of Parliament for Keta, Richard Kwashiga. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to your audience.
Okay, you're also the Propaganda Secretary of the NDC, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for speaking to us. Now, more importantly, the policy statement as announced by the president and all those inferences that have been made in the media over the last couple of days, does it only preclude or include the day school students, but also includes the boarding school students?
Well, I think that the president has been shedding a lot more light on the policy. I mean, it is largely a free fee policy or fee-free policy. And so if these students, normally pay school fees, what it means therefore is that they're not going to pay school fees any longer. And if people are in a boarding house, then what it means is that they also must benefit equally what the nation is providing, and for which reason the president has clarified that they will also not be paying fees as it stands, but they will be paying for their boarding facilities and etc., their feeding in the boarding house and etc. So that is exactly what the president has put across, and largely what the president has put across is in sync with our own constitution. There's no denying of the fact, and the reason for which one wonders why people are making a lot of fuss about it. Because clearly in our own constitution, at 25, it specifies largely, when it talks about secondary education, that it needs different forms, including technical vocational education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. And that is exactly what the president said. And so there is no contradiction as far as what the president said is concerned, the reason for which one wonders why people are trying to make, a lot of mischief out of what the president put out.
And we've been told that the president will cut sword for the first project to start. Actually, we've been told the first batch of project to start. What does it mean? It means it is spread across the country?
Of course, the projects are spread across the country, and if the president symbolically cuts the sword for one today, that means that he has kick-started the whole process. And that is what makes it very significant.
And following that very announcement by the president and those media analysis that have been made from over the weekend, you get to have a sense that perhaps the whole idea of a senior high school education for students within that very bracket is an important thing for voters and for Ghanaians particularly. Now, if we have to go forward and look at the politics of it, what do you make of the criticism, especially from the MPP, that it was an idea of theirs that you seem to have now stolen?
The criticism by the MPP is so unconstructive and very much out of place. Now, what the president has said is a fact. It's something, it's a reality, because it contains the living document that governs this nation, the Constitution of Ghana. Now, the MPP talks about their idea having been stolen. Stolen from who? What has been mentioned by the president is contained in our 1992 Constitution. And what Akufo-Addo proposed at the time, obviously, was not in sync with the 1992 Constitution. It was something very different from what our Constitution actually prescribes. We are talking about progressive, free, senior high education. And he is talking about introduction of free education now without any emphasis on what the Constitution has said. And he was talking about an immediate thing, which was supposed to take, root across board, affecting all secondary school at the time, right from when he takes office. That was his message. And again, he also did stress, that it's going to include boarding fee, etc., right from the time that you take office. And people began to really, put what he said under the microscope, analyze it, and then realize that, look, what you are saying cannot hold. It cannot work. And the Constitution, the defenders of the Constitution were aware of this very challenge that you cannot, implement this as a goal. The reason why they emphasize the word progressively. And when we talk about progressively, we're talking about a gradualistic approach. So gradually, you will introduce free secondary education. And so it moves in that way and then encompasses every aspect of financial involvement as far as secondary education is concerned. And that is exactly what the president announced, and that is exactly what the Constitution says. And the president has always indicated that a report on a roadmap has been introduced, presented by the Ministry of Education. And the dynamics of that will further be discussed, to make it more and more, very effective, foolproof, all the sides looked at before its final introduction, during the 2015-2016 academic year. And I don't feel anything controversial about what the president has said. And, there is no clarity in the argument of our opponents, as in, the president stealing the ideas of, Nana Akufo-Addo. Nana Akufo-Addo said something very different, something that, in reality could not be implemented from the word go. The reason for which, when he himself sat on BBC, during the campaign, electioneering year in 2012, could not tell the host of that program clearly what he meant by free SHS education. Because he had not thought through it very well. He just looked at something, or somebody just mentioned an aspect of the Constitution to him. He probably might have not looked at exactly what the Constitution required, and then he went to town with it. And he became an albatross around his neck. Now, we are saying that there is need for us as the people to fulfill, what the Constitution says.
Now, if the claim from you is that that very statement that the opposition MPP wanted to go ahead with, if they were elected in power, would have become an albatross around their neck, then how about the promises that you had made early on, particularly following the first time you would have been in office, that at least 50 schools would have been built? Now, from today, you're now going to cut sword for those 50 schools to commence. It means that you can't even finish the whole 200 schools by the time you leave office in 2016.
Well, my brother, the fact is that we have started something. And clearly, the president outlined the reason for which the project had not taken off right from the beginning of the term. But then, some very, very critical and meaningful work has been done for all the 200 community schools that will be built. That is, today, we have the drawings and everything very much in place. And if you're going to, after building the first 50, you don't need to do any designs for the next batch of 50 or the next batch of 150. All these things have been done. So the first year has been used, as it were, to do all the necessary work, the nitty-gritties, the details, the drawings, the design, for all the 200. And therefore, we are very much on track. We are very much on track. Nothing has been lost. And I'm very confident that when the first batch of 50 starts, by the time they will be ending, they will have been starting another batch of 50. So that even in this very year, there's is a likelihood that more than 50 community senior high schools may reverse. But that is what it is.
Okay.
Nothing has been lost. We're very much on track.
Now, a lot more clarification on the subject of what is going to be free and what is not, and especially for the...
So come again, please.
Yes, a lot more clarification on the subject of what is going to be free at the senior high school level and what is not, and who is going to perhaps benefit a lot more. It means that their students will be better beneficiaries or optimum beneficiaries, so to speak. So if you're in a boarding house, you just get to pay your PTA fees and etc., but you don't pay the substantive of the basic tuition fees.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nobody will benefit more than the other. The fact is that the president emphasized again that it's a free fee program. At least if it's a free fee, school fees, the school fees excludes the boarding fees and all those facility fees that go with being a boarder. And so it's a matter of choice. You can't decide to be a day student, you know, and have your school fees fully paid. Or you can't decide to be a boarder, your school fees fully paid, excluding the boarding fees, that is the feeding and etc. in the boarding house. But then again, what the president is saying basically is that it is progressive. It is a gradual approach, as has been mandated by the Constitution. And therefore, as we move on and as we put in place all the necessary facilities, what we must bear in mind is that the NDC-led administration, you know, spent a lot of effort last year putting in place more infrastructure, you know, as far as SHS education is concerned, which actually makes, you know, the decision at this time to introduce free fee more potent as compared to at the time Nana Akufo-Addo talked about his, you know, free fee, you know, secondary school, which obviously was, you know, as it were, omnibus, and which lacked clarity, and which obviously did not appear to be an implementable program. You know, so that is what it is. Nobody's going to lose out, but it's a matter of choice. If you choose to be in a boarding house, it means that you must know that there's some extra, you know, resources that ought to be spent on you, and that must be borne by you yourself or your parents or your ward. And so basically, I mean, nobody is benefiting more than the other.
Where is that very argument that you made during the campaign that if senior high school education was made fee-free, perhaps it will compromise on quality? And this time around, the issue of quality is not being raised at all.
Yeah, you see, clearly, that is why I indicated a while ago that we saw the need, as it were, you know, to augment infrastructure. Infrastructure has been augmented to a certain level, which makes it, you know, appreciable to now progress into gradually introducing free fee senior high school policy. You know, and so the argument we made at the time was that Nana Akufo-Addo was looking at introducing, you know, just at a goal. You know, when if he were to assume office in 2013, January 2013, what it means, therefore, is that right from that concept, you know, people are not going to pay school fees. What it means, therefore, is that there's going to be a lot more pressure on the boarding house facilities, because now all these students will now want to go enter the boarding house because it's going to be free. The feeding will be free. Everything is going to be free. You know, that obviously will compromise quality.
But yours won't compromise quality in any way.
Oh, not at all, because the fact is that government is bearing or taking care of the fees, just the fees. So that if you're a day student, you're not paying fees. If you're a boarder, you're not paying fees, but there's a cost element still to be borne by you. You know, and also, at that time, a lot of facilities that were being put in place as far as SHS is concerned, you know, were either 70, 80, or even some of them 50% complete. But then, I have spent 1 year, and then using this year, 2014, in addition, will complete all these facilities. These structures will all be very much in place. You know, the community schools would have had some batch of it also ready, you know, to actually take care of those to be part of the day community schools. So it's an issue of looking at whether indeed we have the structures in place to proceed with a particular program or not. And again, when you look at the NPP, the approach, they rush into things and then they crash.
Okay.
President Kufuor started with this when he changed the 3-year to 4 years SHS program without putting in place the necessary infrastructure. And we saw how the whole program nearly collapsed or crashed. And it was when President the late took over the reins of governance that he has to, as it were, reroute the policy, and then there was so much pressure on government to provide facilities, to take care of that gap that was created by the Kufuor administration. And that is exactly what would have happened, and a lot more of that if Nana Akufo-Addo, had won the election in 2012 and then become president in 2013, and introducing his free education policy, which obviously was convoluted, complicated, was not implementable. It was just going to crash, as it were, the government education program in this country. And probably it would have opened an avenue for a lot more private schools to spring up, which will take advantage of the situation to charge, cutthroat fees, and the rich will only be the beneficiary, and the majority poor people in this country would have been left out.
Okay, we've been told that 71 million cedis is going to be the initial cost for the period 2015-2016, we've been told currently. Where is the funding going to come from?
Well, clearly, if you have read what the president said, the GET fund would...
Well, we already know that the GET fund is in arrears already for a number of its own obligatory payments, and so sometimes I guess the criticism has been that there's no clarity on how the GET fund will be in a position to finance it.
The GET fund is in arrears today. Doesn't mean that the GET fund will be in arrears tomorrow.
Somebody will say that's a political argument you're making.
Not at all, not at all. We all know why the GET fund currently is in arrears, or why all the statutory funds have been in arrears. We all know clearly that the senior spine became obviously an albatross around the neck of government. Salaries of workers quadrupled, and more money will have to be spent, in paying the workers of this country first of all, before all other things are looked at. The reason for which the statutory funds, including the GET fund, ran into arrears. But all these measures are being straightened and corrected. The economic policies that government has put in place, as it were, are supposed to address this, that situation. And by the time we get into 2015-2016 academic year, that will have been history, obviously. So you can see clearly that government, has actually reflected very clearly on these situations before coming out, as it were, with this proposal, which in itself is a report on a roadmap.
Well, thank you very much. And Member of Parliament for Keta speaking to us, Richard Kwashiga, is also the Propaganda Secretary for the ruling NDC. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Kwashiga. We hope to have you again, this time in the studio, for you to give us a lot more thoughts on national issues as we find them topical as much as possible. You have any comments on that?
Well,
no, your own personal comment. Okay.
Personal comment.
Okay.
No comment.
All right.
I still have my reservations with regards to the free SHS. Well, it's just some 31 minutes after 7. You're still on the AM show. We'll come back and do My Community for you.
Okay. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, so we have in the studio officials of the the Coalition of Concerned Teachers of Ghana. And thanks for joining us. We have the Vice President, Enesupuku, who is also the President in the studio, and the Communications Director. And thanks for joining us this morning. How are you? And now let's look at the current state of education in Ghana. What's your your most worrisome issue when it comes to education in Ghana?
I think that the current trend is not good for Ghana.
What trend?
The standard keeps falling day in and day out. And I have been saying wherever I go that as a nation, if we really want to develop and want to go forward, in my opinion, education should be a priority. And therefore, if Ghana want to move forward, the way we are going, to me, we are not making any progress because the standard keeps falling. And as a professional teacher, it's a source of worry to everybody, to me and to the union.
And you too, what's your most worrisome issue currently?
Thank you very much. My president have said it all. We are in a country where we keep on having different policies of education whenever new government comes into power. And whenever a new government comes to power and there's a new educational policy, what it means is that abandoning the old educational policy means setting us a step back. So as a country, it is about time we sit down and get a clear-cut policy. Make a policy on education that will guide the country for about the next 50 years, the next 100 years, where we will all pursue to make sure that we get to our destination. Other than that, the current trend where today there is this, tomorrow there is that, today there is this, tomorrow there is that, are worrying the kids. And at the end of the day, the teacher goes to the classroom, you don't even know what syllabus to use to teach, whether it is 3 years syllabus, whether it is
but you're a teacher, you know that that's not true. You have a syllabus to teach with, don't you?
I'm not saying there's no syllabus. I'm saying that you
go
to the
you
classroom.
Just said that you don't know what syllabus
I'm saying that you go to the classroom, then last time there was a 4-year syllabus. Now there's a 3-year syllabus. Even now, WAEC has its own syllabus and all that. So we have to get a clear-cut policy on education.
So we need to streamline.
We need to streamline.
Okay, so that's well taken. Just the last week, the president in his State of the Nation address said senior high school was going to be free, and progressively from 2015 to 2016 academic periods, we should see whether you're a student or day boarder, etc. At least your basic school fees will be free. You may pay the other charges, etc., PTA, but I mean you're going to enjoy free schooling at the senior high school level. That should be positive for the students of this country.
Well, in my personal opinion, free education is good because we have a lot of people who don't have access to education, not because they don't want to go to school, because they don't have means to pay. As a teacher, when I sit in the classroom and students are supposed to be sacked to go for their school fees, and parents, I find it very difficult to get money to pay their school fees. I mean, it's a source of worry to me. We also have children, we have kids, we have nephews and nieces who are schooling. And so if education is going to be free, fine. And personally, I don't want to look at who is implementing free education, whether MPP, NDC. I don't want to go into that tangent.
But you want to look at the broader
context. I want to look at the broader picture. You see, His Excellency the President promised Ghanaians 3 things: access, quality, and affordability. As we speak, has he been able to fulfill the promise of access, quality, affordability? You said you're going to build 50 schools within a year, community day schools within a year, and then continue so that by the time your 4 years expire, you should be able to build 200 schools. As I speak to you, we have not been able to even build a single school.
Well, we're cutting salt for the 50.
Cutting salt is one thing. We live in a country where we've been able to cut salt for commencement of a particular project, and within 5, 6, even under 10 years, the program is still ongoing. So cutting salt is one thing, and completing the project is another thing. In my opinion, if the government has been able to fulfill its part of the bargaining, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, and then government says that I've been able to build, as we speak, I've built about 6 schools. In my opinion, by 2015, we should be able to build 80, 70, Then by 2015, we are able to implement free education. One, he has not been able to build a single school.
He's cutting sword for the first.
Fine. That is why I said cutting sword is one thing, and then implementing the project, actually commencing the project, doing it, is another thing. In my opinion, fine. So far as the government has not been able to fulfill the promise of affordability, quality, and access, we shouldn't even move to free education. As I speak to you, my brother, let's call a spade a spade. In my opinion, I think that we live in a country where all of us need to call a spade and speak the truth. Government is owing teachers 24 months incremental credit arrears. They said there is no money, they can't pay, we should forfeit it. Last year we met on 20th of November with fair wages, and they pleaded with us to forfeit the 2 years arrears. As I speak to you, even teachers, you know, when you finish College of Education, you are put on allowance. Then when your results come and you pass your exam, then you begin processing your IPPD for upgrading. As I speak to you, teachers who have finished school for the past 1 year, 2 years, government paid only 3 months.
That's been the practice, right?
No. I mean, that's been the practice, that you are paid on allowance until you pass your exam.
Yes.
Then you go through the process of upgrading.
Once you regularize, then you pay the
arrears. Now, government is saying with all the arrears, there is no money. They will pay only 3 months. Teachers who have been promoted for the past 1 year and they have to go through IPPD, government is saying, I won't pay. I will pay only 3 months. Our worry is that teachers who have been recruited and they have been working for the past 2 years, you know, when you are recruited with the senior high schools, the heads they do the recruitment, you go through, you teach, and then you process your IPPD for your salary to be paid. As I speak to you, on the 5th of November 2013, the Minister of Finance signed a letter asking all MMDAs not to pay arrears in all the public sector workers beyond 3 months. And then in January 2014, Controller and Accountant General used
all these things you are saying are just financial measures that have been introduced by the Ministry of Finance, etc.
So if you are owing teachers,
to make sure that fiscal spending is regularized and also adequately monitored. So does that mean that once you're in arrears, you're not going to be paid? Now I have to go come to you. With all these that NS has enumerated, how do they in any way hinder
the free SHS? It affects it in so many ways. For example, if government is not having money to currently pay the teachers at posts, and then the same government is saying that it wants to implement free SHS,
which will be funded from the GET fund. You are not paid from the GET fund, are you?
You let me complete. You know, we are not even going to that, because even statutory funds that should be paid to GET fund not even paying. Even GET fund is even in arrears. Let us not even go there. Now,
no, we have to discuss that.
No, the issue is that whether GET fund, NHIS fund, whatever fund, it is Ghana's money. So let us not even go there.
But we have allocations, and the disbursements are based on where the allocations are coming from. The money
belongs to the state.
Can you let your colleague
let us go on. The issue that my president is trying to discuss is that government on several occasions has complained to us, but that there is no money to even pay teachers, arrears and what have you. But whatever be the case, if you want to make SHS free, money will go into that. Last year they were telling us some 71 million Ghana cedis. That's
what the cost breakdown, or the costs. But okay? Even though the breakdown has not been brought forward, so for the period.
The issues we are raising is that as soon as you make even SHS free, what it means is that there will be more recruitment, or there will be more admission of students. Population of students will increase. There will be more classrooms. Population of teachers will also automatically increase. Now, this is the situation whereby, as the president said, arrears are not even paid. There are teachers that have worked legitimately for a year, 2, and
as a result of that, it shouldn't be implemented. The policy shouldn't be implemented.
No, what you are saying is that if there is no money, are you okay to even currently build the new classrooms? Because government promises that we cannot have free SHS when you don't have access. So if you make it free and the population increases, where are the students going to sit in the first place? That one is also a cause of worry. And another issue is that we have been told several times that there is no money. I don't want to go into the issues of statutory payments, money to this, money to this. We are looking
because it's crucial.
The
source of the funding for the project.
We are looking at Ghana
as it has been announced in the President's State of the Nation address,
we are looking at Ghana
has specifically been tied to the GET fund. And 71 million Ghana
GET fund are even used for road projects.
Well, we do understand.
You see, we are looking at Ghana as an entity. We are looking at Ghana as an entity. If GET fund can be used to build classrooms, the same GET fund is about education. So if there's money in GET fund, why can't some also be used to pay teachers? It's not all about education.
Is it, Roland? Let me tell you one thing.
We are in Ghana.
I do understand the concerns you're raising, and I'm asking you, Ernest, does this in any way mean that the policy should not go on because of the skepticism perhaps the Concerned Teachers Association of Ghana is raising?
No, Roland, what we are saying is that it's not about whether if we have problems, we should implement the policy. But our concerns is the government really ready to implement it? One, you said you want quality. As I speak to you, 2013 BEC, the whole of Volta region, only 11 students had aggregate 6. 2013 BEC, the whole of Volta region, only 11 students.
But we can't verify the figures here now. So.
You can check from WAEC. Only 11. And so the standard keep falling. Check. The standard keep falling. Do you understand? The standard keep falling. And so if you're talking about quality, because we need to put certain things in place before we implement whatever policy. But the standard keeps falling. And so if you really want to implement such a policy, have you been able to put a lot of measures in place to make sure that, yes, we can move into free education? That is our worry, because you have promised us certain things, and you have not been able to fulfill those things. And you are saying that you will implement free education when we all know that nowhere in the president's speech did the president talk about teacher motivation. You cannot implement free education if you don't motivate the teacher.
Okay, so you're saying that if you're not motivated, you're going to sabotage the policy that will be implemented?
No, that is not the issue. We are not saying we are going to sabotage the policy. What we are saying is that, as a nation, if you really want to implement anything so far as education is concerned, the teacher is the pivot. Because you cannot do it without a teacher. As I speak to you, there is a National Committee on Teacher Absenteeism. And the committee was formed by the Minister of Education. I like the minister because she is trying as much as possible to make sure that, yes, education in this country move forward. She has formed a committee of which I am a member of the committee. We are looking at teacher absenteeism. Currently, it stands at 20%, where teachers don't go to school. But a lot of factors go into it.
Why?
Because one, we have a situation where teachers walk 3, 4, 5 hours before they get to where they're
So you mean that where they live and the distance between where they live and the school is?
There's no teacher accommodation. You go to the villages where teachers...
But people walk to their workplaces all the time. So is that an excuse for you to use?
My brother, if you...
To be especially made attributable to the current rate of 20% absenteeism as a witness across schools in Ghana?
I do agree. What I'm saying is that if you live in a situation where you have to walk 5 hours from where you live to your school, by the time you get to school, it will be around 9, 10 o'clock.
And you have to be realistic. No human being works 5 hours unless it's for a sporting event. So please be realistic. Don't try to exaggerate the issue.
Well, I do agree with you. What we are saying is that teacher accommodation is a problem, which the ministry and GES know. They know that we live in a country where even if you go to the villages, where teachers will have to sleep has become very difficult. Now we are talking about teacher absenteeism. If teachers have accommodation close to where the school is located...
Why would teachers have difficulty getting a place to sleep?
Because there's no teacher accommodation.
Well, they are paid, and they're paid.
No, the issue is that...
No, please, let's finish this.
Yes, they are paid. But what we are saying is that if I'm paid, currently, where I live and where I teach, there is no single bungalow in my school currently. Even the headmaster will have to move from where he lives to the school. So if you're talking about problems about education.
You feel that the incentive should be provided for the teachers. So that's the bane of your argument.
Those facilities, what we are saying is that if we can implement free senior high school, Ali Awudu, if we can implement free senior high school, then certain facilities need to be provided. And those facilities have not been provided. And so to us, we think it's a gimmick. And we really have to be serious as a nation. Let us move forward. Let us see how best we can put certain measures in place before we move to free senior high school.
I want to ask a question, Ms. Awudu. Do you think that, as promised or as being used by the campaign, by the MPP presidential candidate, then Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the party itself, do you think in any way, do you think in any way that very policy was implementable?
Well, as my president said earlier on, we don't want to go into the nitty-gritties about which political party wanted to implement it.
So you don't want to be political about it?
But what we want to say is that at least the constitution of the land makes it available. The education should be made free. So if it is MPP government that will implement it for us,
you
they
don't
have
mind.
Fulfilled
you don't
that
mind.
constitutional
So let's
policy.
leave the politics out of it then.
If it is NDC, they have fulfilled the constitutional policy. But the situation is that Ghanaian children must what? Benefit. But Roland, I'm finding very difficult why it's like you are not understanding what my president is saying.
Oh, I'm asking questions, and
you see,
and it shouldn't be misconstrued to mean that I'm misunderstanding whatever.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
When you go to secondary schools, especially where there are boarding systems,
yes, please.
Students sleep in a school. There are so many secondary schools where you can have about 500 students sleeping in the school. And the number of teachers that have bungalows in the school do not even exceed 2 or 3. Now, these teachers then find it very difficult to control such students. And it makes so many things
go wrong.
Immorality to go on. And that all contributes to the decreasing standards of education. When you go to where my president teaches, for example, there's not a single bungalow in the school.
Yet they have a boarding facility.
They have hostels.
Okay.
And they live around. So when school closes, all these teachers go away. Who watches over the kids? Now, these are some of the things that we are saying. We should know that when the free SHS is implemented, what it means is that the population will increase. And some of these vices will also increase. I hope you are getting me. And the issue is that we were promised. You see, sometimes it is very difficult to understand the way politicians go back and forth. We were told, we understood it, and we believed it, that we cannot implement free SHS when we don't have enough classrooms. Because when you do, population will increase. Just like the way the FQ was implemented, and because there were not enough classrooms, Joy TV made a story where a classroom was filled to the blackboard, and teachers could not even get a place to stand to write. The same thing will happen if we implement a free SHS. So we were promised by His Excellency the President that, no, let's build more classrooms. At least, if you are able to build 200 more classrooms, increase the standard of the current ones, everybody will have access. Now, if everybody have access, and you even make it free, that affordability comes in, we wouldn't have a problem.
Well, is it not precisely the point why the President says the policy is not taking effect immediately, but it's taking place or taking effect within the 2015-16 academic
How sure
period?
are we?
And by that time, according to the argument that have come from officials of the Ministry of Education, all the ministers and their deputy, has been that by which time they would have finished completing the first batch of those promised senior high school education schools, so to speak.
That wasn't the issue.
Those basic infrastructure will be made available.
The issue wasn't that. Whilst we are building the schools, we will start alongside the policy. The issue is that we will finish building the schools, then look at quality. And after quality, we will go and look at affordability. So we have not yet gotten to the last stage of making it free.
Is that your understanding of how the issue was communicated within the campaign?
Yes. You see, we were told during the campaign that the free SHS is possible within the next 20 years. We were told that emphatically, the next 20 years. And we should also understand that if government says he will build 200 schools within 4 years, and it's in the second year, and it's yet to start the construction, how sure are we that the next 2 years they can build the 200? When the first 2 years, nothing was.
Well, the government says don't get so worked up about this.
In the same way they told us that. In the same way they told us that in the first year.
It is possible they will build the 200 schools before they leave office.
We are not talking about possibility. We are talking about reality. You told us the first year you build 50. The second year you build 50. Now the first year you couldn't build the 50. The second year you have not even started the 50. And then you are now telling me the next 2 years you build 200. How do I believe that?
Now, Roland, nobody is against free education.
You've made your point. I'm not saying that you're against it. So please,
but we want to look at the reality.
Let's do the discussions in a manner at which we know the clear lines at which we're undertaking this very discussion. Now, the current state of quality in various basic, let's say, junior high as well as senior high schools. Yeah. How is it compromised currently, and by which factors?
Well, seriously, there are a lot of factors, Roland. I've talked about teacher accommodation. That is one. I've talked about teacher motivation. That is two. Politicians are touting out there that teachers are better off after implementing single spine pay.
Are you talking about government? It's government that has always touted that the teachers, just like other public sector workers, are better off because of the single spine pay policy. That is not the reality, Roland.
I keep telling you. I have master's degree. My colleague who have master's degree is taking 3,000, 4,000 Ghana cedis who lectures at Polytechnic.
So go and lecture in the Polytechnic.
Another institution. So
go and lecture in the Polytechnic.
No, if all of us decide to go to Polytechnic to lecture, then who should teach at the basic school?
In the secondary school.
In the secondary school. Who? If all of us, Roland, you, me, everybody decide to go to...
No, but you can't make the argument. For example... For example, we have master degree holders who work in a bank. And we have master degree holders who work in other sectors. You can't get the same type of remuneration.
I do agree with you. What we are saying is that the whole hula baloo about single spine to us is neither here nor there. Because I keep telling people my salary. And when I tell them, they don't believe it. They get surprised. Do you understand? And the whole single spine was to be implemented within 5-year period. As I speak to you, after paying the basic pay, that is what is the single spine, the other issues have not been tackled at all. The issue of category 2 and 3 allowances, the issue of market premium and what have you, because government says there is no money. And so teachers are seriously affected when it comes to single spine. Quite apart from this, there are a lot of problems in terms of professionalism. Roland, let me tell you, the whole of last year, district directors of education were finding very difficult to run their offices.
You mean all district directors or some districts? Some district directors of you.
Well, let me use some.
Because I'm taking this from you because you're with a coalition, a body that will get all these opinions. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. So please let's stick with some. So it's not as if that's the generality of the current situation.
That is it. You see, Roland, if we really want to look at education, you see, secondary supervisors are supposed to do monitoring. And they are supposed to be giving fuel allowance so that they can move from school to school. They were not doing it because there wasn't money. You go to school reopening, choke. That is supposed to be provided. If you don't provide basic facilities.
In some schools.
In some schools. For us to do the work as teachers, it affects teaching and learning.
Were you facing the same problem in your school?
Yes. In my school currently, if I tell you, the whole of Christian Methodist Senior High School, the land has been encroached by private developers. And if you go and look at the portion with which the school
that's for the authorities of the school to deal with. Is it a government issue?
It's a government facility.
I mean, the school belongs to government.
It's for the school.
The school has a headmaster and a team of teachers to manage the school. So if they are not able to put...
GS is aware.
My brother, listen. The headmaster
cannot fight.
The headmaster cannot sue people who have encroached the land. Is it his private? Is it his personal property? It's for government of Ghana. Okay. And looking at the way the school is, it's difficult to even control the students because the whole school buildings is interpaired with.
So you're saying that some of these factors are the things that tend to inhibit quality.
Yeah.
Okay, I would.
There are other things.
Okay. While you add that, I also would want to find out from you how how do you envisage an ideal free SHS policy to be implemented like?
Okay.
In what fashion would ideally you want it to be implemented?
Yeah, before I come to that, there are some other things that actually contribute to the poor quality. We are in a country where geographically there's a problem. We have traveled to the north. In fact, when you go to a northern part of this country, where in terms of passes in BEC, and then the WASI is at the lowest percentage, you go and you realize that the school where it is located and where the teacher lives and where the people also lives and the nature of the building itself is not attractive enough for teaching and learning. In the three northern regions, some are very pathetic. You will see a building, just some 3 woods put there and some palm leaves used to cover it. When there is just small wind, no school. When there's small rain, no school, and all that. If you've noticed, the poor results in BEC most of the time come from deprived areas. But we don't hear those from the big cities and towns.
Because they don't have those difficulties.
Because the problem is that the attention of the GE and the Ministry of Education is so much on schools within the big areas.
So you're saying that we should tackle quality first?
We should tackle
improve
quality.
on infrastructure?
That is it.
We should,
you see, sometimes
we should improve
government
on
bring
incentives
vehicles.
and other variables.
Sometimes government bring vehicles to be distributed to secondary schools. And then they'll go and give the vehicles to the already established secondary schools with strong PTA, having so many buses already. And you go to some secondary schools in this country, even a pickup, they don't have it. So anything they want to go, they have to go and hire a car. But when government bring in the buses, they still give the buses to the big schools they attended. Let me put it that way. So as a country, even the resources that will increase the quality of education is not evenly distributed.
They are not equitably distributed. We don't understand that.
The free SHS, you see, as I said earlier, is
no, I asked you a question about how ideally you would wish
ideally to be implemented.
It should
be implemented. And I'm saying that, as I said earlier, it's a constitutional policy. So I want to see Ghana, probably, if at LI, Parliament should come in, and we should draft a policy that within the next 20 years, within the next 10 years, or within the next 5 years, we want to implement free SHS. Now, within the next 5 or 10 years, in the first year we will do this. We will increase infrastructure. Within the next 3 years, we will increase the training of teachers. In the next 10 years, we will start implementing the policy. It should be gradual. It should not be an at-once process. Other than that, we will just run ourselves into serious troubles. So what we are saying is that the implementation of the free SHS should be gradual, and certain things must be put in place. Because as soon as you increase the policy, everything, as soon as you implement the policy, everything will go up. The students' population will go up. Teacher population will go up. But infrastructure, teaching and learning materials, and all other things will remain approximately the same. It can't take the country anywhere. So I want to see the government, together with even those in opposition, sit down and draft a policy on education for the country and attach it to whatever is in the constitution, so that whichever government will come into power,
they will follow through.
They will follow through, be it MPP, NDC, so that we will stop this thing of MPP coming to implement 4 years, MPP come and make it 3 years, MPP come again maybe 2.5 years, then maybe one day CPP come 5 years. It's not helping the nation. So that MPP come today, me I want to come and do free SHS. Now, then NDC says it is quality and affordability and access. Then now NDC says I want to do free SHS. The MPP says you have stolen my. And what is that?
Okay.
We are not helping the system.
So you feel that currently there's no clarity, on the policy?
We don't have, as a nation, we don't have a policy on education.
Okay.
So everybody comes to power and then jump into the world and then start doing just anything.
If currently, going by the current analysis that all of you have made, having undertaken your assessment adequately, if nothing changes and we have a free SHS policy, what could be the repercussions? Either you could talk about access, you could talk about quality, motivation, etc. And then we have a free SHS policy. What happens?
Well, Roland, if government have the capacity to implement free senior high school now, no problem. But certain things need to be put right. And those things are what we are telling you. One, teacher motivation is very important. Teachers should be taken care of. Two, quality. The standard keep falling. Whatever all stakeholders have to do, and that is what I said the minister is currently doing, putting all stakeholders in education together to form a committee to even look at teacher absenteeism. That is one thing. But even the committee, as I speak to you, we have not been able to come out with a report as to the current state and what we need to do to improve. And we are talking about free senior high school. So to us, if government have the capacity to implement it now, in terms of financial muscles and everything, that is why I was even telling you, if government want to implement it, where is government going to take the money? Because government said
it's fun. That has been made clear. So let's not make arguments about it.
So what we are saying is that if government want to implement it, have the capacity, fine. But certain things ought to be made. Certain things need to be put in place. One, the standard need to be improved. Two, in terms of access, more classrooms need to be built. Teacher motivation need to be looked at. Teacher bundles. And I speak to you, even this tax waiver on vehicles that teachers, bring from outside has been taken off. This government came and said, I have removed that tax waiver. Well, we used to get, teachers used to get cars, and then there's tax waiver.
You mean just like initially health workers?
Health workers, and they gave those things to teachers as incentives. And then the government came last year, when they read this budget, they said they have taken that kind of incentives. So it's like, it's making education in this country and teachers, it's difficult for us. It's very difficult. And as a teacher union, as president of a teacher union that speaks on behalf of teachers, Roland, I'm telling you, teachers are suffering. If you go to villages, I'm telling you, we have a situation where a teacher will have to cross a river. We have to cross a river before going to school. And there is nothing like motivation for such a teacher. They are doing their best. But I think that if we really want to implement free senior high school, no problem. But those facilities need to be provided first before we go to free senior high school.
Thank you very much.
Word before
my last word. I don't know if you know the motto of the Coalition of Concerned Teachers. Our motto is quality education, our consent. That is our motto. Quality education, our consent.
You mean the other teacher unions don't have same motto?
We have our own policy direction.
Okay, the way you were indicating, I thought you were trying to.
That is why it appears as if we are so much concerned about this. Because quality in terms of everything is paramount. If you have things in masses, you make it free, and then all Ghanaian children go to school, they all go and rise for it, and then they all feel. I mean, it doesn't gel.
Are you saying now that you're not in support of the free SHS because it's going to be implemented and mass people will be?
Per our argument.
So you're saying that only if the infrastructure and the basic facilities are made available.
Fantastic.
So we think that we think that government is lying to us by promising us A, B, C, D, and has not been able to implement them. And within a twinkle of an eye, government.
So you're saying
all the things.
So you're saying government cannot be trusted on this very side?
No, with this, because government promised us 3 things. He has not been able to implement what he promised us, even one of them. Not to talk.
If you say he, who do you mean by he? The government is an institution.
Yeah, government. I said government.
Right, so the way personal.
Ghanaians. I said government. Promised Ghanaians 3 things. That is quality, access, affordability. And by access, government promised building 200 community schools. Not even a single one has been built. And we are talking within a twinkle of an eye.
And Nesopoku, the gentleman speaking is Nesopoku, is the president of the Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. It used to be Concerned Teachers Association of Ghana.
Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana.
Okay. Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana. He's the national president. Thanks for joining us this morning. And Ali Awudu, in charge of communications with the coalition. Director of Communication, a very big position there as well. And thanks, and I know that you'll be speaking on another forum on this very subject.
Yes. It was on the Daily Graphic front page.
Okay. I do understand, because I wanted to ask a question. Is it a new movement you're galvanizing to make sure that you oppose the free SHS?
No, we don't oppose it. We said we don't oppose it. We said it
it's just that you're raising concerns.
Yes. Yeah, we are raising concerns.
Okay, thank you very much, and that's been it for AM Talk. We've been speaking about the free SHS policy as announced by the President in the State of the Nation address, and today we're being told that the first of those batch of new senior high schools will be built, and the sword cutting ceremony is going to take place somewhere in the eastern region, and it is going to be spearheaded by the President himself, John Dramani Mahama. In the meantime, though, well, somewhere in the Greater Accra region, specifically a community called Oyibi, residents had complained of the non-availability of a functioning health center, and after persistent or incessant publications and broadcasts, well, there seemed to have been some light at the end of the day. And we want to refresh our memory in the next segment, My Community, what really happened. Because on Tuesday, the next, that's the 4th of March, 2014, 5 p.m. specifically, we're going to bring you what the new health facility the community seems to be having currently at Oyibi, and how that is also going to improve on the health status or healthcare quality of inhabitants in that very community. But again, what was the current, the old situation? So we want to take a look at it in My Community, just refreshing our minds on what has been happening to the inhabitants of Oyibi.